Brock Purdy is in concussion protocol and might not play on Sunday. Let's welcome in John Dickinson. JD, kind of surprising news out of Santa Clara. Can you add any insight or details that Brock Purdy's in concussion protocol?
Yeah, and, it just goes to show that the middle of an NFL season for the San Francisco 49ers is just never going to go smoothly.
Man.
No matter what you think, from 5-0 a couple of weeks ago now to 5-2 and dealing with their yearly quarterback injury issues. Now, it remains to be seen, the severity and all of that. The one note that I did see, and maybe you guys had caught this just in the last few minutes, I did see that Adam Schefter of ESPN wrote that no player this season who's gone into the concussion protocol has played the next game after that. And it's gone all the way back to the middle of last season when Kenny Pickett of the Steelers went into the protocol and then was able to play that same week. And that comes on the heels of the league obviously revamping and adding a little more scrutiny to the concussion protocol, given some of the issues last year that were centered around Tua Tagovailoa of the Dolphins. At this point, I would say status immediately in doubt for Brock Purdy.
Wow, JD, and you were in Minnesota. I had like 100 questions for you. I still do. Let me ask you this, because I know when you look at the output or the points allowed from the Niners defense in Cleveland and in Minnesota, there's nothing really to see here. They destroyed Dallas. I just thought they were perfect. That's on me. But what shocked you most about Minnesota and Kirk Cousins, 70% on third down, almost 500 yards total offense? What can you share with us your thoughts on what's not going right with the defense the last couple of weeks? Because I'm shocked, JD.
No pass rush, and teams have been able to run it on them early. The Browns ran it on them at points in the whole game, and really more in the second half even than the first half. But the Browns were able to run it on them. The Vikings in the first half were able to run it on them. So, and then they were just third down. I mean, they were able to convert on third down. I thought the Vikings game was a little different than the Browns game, although both similar in this stretch. I do think it's been game plan for Stefanski of the Browns and O'Connell of the Vikings. The game plan has been sound against the 49ers defense, and I think it's been a combination of a lack of pressure, a real strong offensive game plan from two pretty highly thought of offensive coordinators who run similar systems to that of the 49ers, interestingly enough. And I even go back to the Rams, who had some success. Same system. All of these guys, O'Connell, McVay, Stefanski, all come from that same tree and that same system and style of offense and game planning. So I think maybe there's a little bit of something that there could be there to that compared to some of the other games that the 49ers have had. But it all comes down to inability to stop the run, inability to generate pressure. And then what we've seen in the Minnesota game in particular is the blitzing. It doesn't, and I go back to training camp. I was on with you guys, and I mentioned this, I want to say the second day of training camp. One of the big questions that I had about the 49ers defense coming into the year was Steve Wilks likes to blitz a lot, and the 49ers are not used to blitzing a lot. They're four-man rush, get home with their defensive line. Wilks likes to blitz. To begin with, they're not generating pressure with the four up front, which means he's going to pick his spots to blitz more. And it just seems like the blitzes haven't quite been timed or executed properly, which has left the 49ers vulnerable, I think in particular in the middle of the field. And that's where you saw the Vikings in the passing game just absolutely shred them, whether it was with Addison or Hawkinson, and obviously the play before halftime. I mean, you could make the case, Ward's got the ball, and it was basically the same play as the first series when Ward got the interception. But you can't put yourself in that position. It reminded me of do you guys remember the Rams game?
I remember it.
Against Tampa Bay in the playoffs.
Man.
I mean, they ran the zero blitz at the end after they had come back, and they give up the big ball, I think it was to Cooper Kupp, and they end up losing the game. And so I think Kyle Shanahan visibly, noticeably irritated, which is something that you don't, he basically said, hey, we're going to talk about that during the week, and I'm going to tell him not to do it. To me, that was my read on, like, I'm going to tell him he's got to get the blitzes in order. I don't want to blitz in that particular situation because it can lead to a catastrophic consequence in game like it did on Monday. A million little things that wound up, one play of being the difference from the 49ers being able to steal that game. But the overarching theme, Steiny, for me is, the 49ers didn't deserve to win either of these last two games. And had they would have stolen them, and you tip your cap, but they would have been stealing them versus being the better team on that given night.
John Dickinson joining us on 95.7 The Game. He's our 95.7 The Game reporter in Minneapolis on Monday, and I'm just assuming he was at the Chase Center yesterday. Am I right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I preempt Warriors live before and after
John,
Warriors
Jay.
wrap up, before and after every game. Nothing's changed there.
Let me ask you this.
Maybe we didn't send the memo out.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I must have missed it. My bad, buddy. Let me ask you this about the 49ers, and let's take Brock Purdy's concussion off the table. Let's just say it didn't happen. After the last two games, are we getting anywhere where Kyle Shanahan might say, you know what? Now that's two games. Like, how much leash do you think Brock Purdy has?
I think he's got leash right now. I don't think Shanahan's even considering that type of I'm going to make a move for, due to ineffectiveness. I think Purdy played pretty well, I thought, overall against the Vikings. And that was the kind of game early that you could tell they were going to have to throw it a lot and be successful. I thought throwing it a lot to win it. And I thought they could be successful throwing it a lot. But no, I think when you look at Shanahan, I think he's been pretty pleased with Purdy, overall to this point. And we knew that there were going to be some bumps in the road eventually. Now, the interesting thing is, let's say Sam Darnold has to play this week, and you know where I'm going because we've seen this with the 49ers and their quarterback situation over the years. If Sam Darnold has to play and goes out and throws 4 touchdown passes and executes the 49ers offense at an extremely high level against the Bengals and they win, then what? You know what I mean? So we're always kind of a step away, I feel like, in the 49er land from there being that type of quarterback controversy because of what we've seen when basically what Brock Purdy was able to do.
Yeah.
When he got his opportunity and then they rolled with it. So would I expect Darnold to go out and do that if he has to play, especially with the 49ers banged up offensively? I mean, that's the other thing when you just look at the last couple of weeks, guys. And it's not surprising to me, Goo. I'm not shocked about this part.
Okay.
When you start taking pieces away, that they look a lot more normal. And that Brock Purdy looks a lot more normal. And again, that's not an indictment of Purdy's career or anything like that. We want to anoint. Is he a future? Is he Tom Brady one week? Is he I don't know, Kenny Pickett the next week? Obviously that's an over exaggeration, but on the back end, but. The answer is he's somewhere in between. And, we still are learning about how good or potentially great a quarterback he is. But the one thing that I am not surprised about at all is the fact that, all of a sudden Christian McCaffrey is a little banged up and clearly not 100% gutting through it, but not quite as effective as he's been.
And the fumbles, JD, and the ball fumbles. Okay.
And that's part of not being as effective. Deebo Samuel being out, players having to move around and change positions in the offense. You have five weapons goes to 3.5. Compared to what you're used to, and all of it. It's almost like a lineup in baseball, right? You've got this great 9-man lineup. And all of a sudden, you're only 6 deep in that lineup, and you start making outs, and the bats start going cold. And so, when the Niners have everybody, I think it's as good an offense as there is in the league, with the exception of maybe a couple. But you start taking pieces away, and we've seen this in the past, it becomes a struggle.
Jay, you know me and all my imperfections, man. I'm going to switch it up to last night because you were in the house. We've been having some great debate about last night. It's one game. Chris Paul did well for himself. I'm not shocked. They didn't shoot it well. But I hate that I'm this way. I'm built this way, and I'm about to share it with you. My biggest takeaway, is Kerr's comments after the game and Andrew Wiggins, although it's one game, not being in the finishing lineup. He didn't deserve to be, but JD, if this is the Wiggins they're going to get, I kind of piggyback off of last year, why he was gone, if there's some ill will, but he floated. This team can't reach its goal if Wiggins is not the best version of himself. Was it odd to you that he wasn't in? Am I making too much out of nothing? But I'm telling Steiny, like, oh boy, for Kerr to have to say it could change or fluctuate, I didn't think if I'm Wiggins that was a good thing.
Well, there's a lot there, and I don't think I don't think the fact that it could fluctuate as far as the closing lineup, like, to me, that's an overarching thing to where he's trying to keep everybody engaged. Like, I think he's trying to, and I think even part of last night was more about Kuminga in a sense than even Wiggins. And Kerr after the game said he thinks Wiggins will be fine. Look, he was a sleepwalker last night. I mean, there's no doubt. I mean, Wiggins did not deserve to play at the end of that game. Now, that being said, I was really surprised that Kerr didn't go back to him at around the 3-minute mark. But I do think part of that was maybe Kuminga, because I think Steve Kerr is trying to put the message out to 7 or 8 guys that they have an opportunity to finish the game. Like, I don't think he wants the locker room to think that he's got a set 5 that he's going to close the game with, because I think he runs the risk of losing somebody like Kuminga. So in a way, and look, I thought Kuminga was I thought he was okay last night. I didn't think Kuminga was great. I thought he had some energy. He was active, but you could make the case he was better than Wiggins last night, in terms of impact on the game. And so you give Kuminga the chance to finish, and that immediately lets Kuminga know that he might finish games. And so in a way, you're almost paying it forward with a young player that's been maligned, and it's been, almost as if he's been in the doghouse a little bit. So you're giving Kuminga the rope initially to give him confidence, like, look, if you play well, I will close with you. So I think big picture, that's probably a good thing for him. But I also think Steve Kerr wants Saric to know that he could be out there, Looney to know he could be out there. Like they've got a bunch of guys that I think have the potential to finish games like that. And I think, he wants to make sure that everybody kind of knows that. But to your original point on Wiggins, he's got to be better. I mean, when you run through the Warriors, and I won't run through every single player, but I've done this at different points in the offseason. The only way the Warriors are going to be championship contenders is if all of these guys, and you can run through everybody on the roster that's going to play significant minutes, they all have to hit certain marks with their game. They all have to be at a high level. And Wiggins didn't hit it last night. Clay didn't hit it last night. Chris Paul did some good things, but shot terribly. Didn't make a 3-pointer. That's not going to cut it. And even Steph Curry last night scores 27 points, but that was not Steph Curry's best game. So, that performance from the Warriors last night, well, you can say they were in the game down the stretch and had a chance to win. Yes, they did, but that's not a championship team that we saw last night. Now, Draymond's out and all of that, but, how about Clay? That was a vintage Klay Thompson 2022-23 bad game. 1 of 8 to start, then 4 of 4 in the middle, just as everybody's getting frustrated with him being 1 of 8, and then 1 of 6 to finish. I mean, and you end up at 6 of 18, but he had the hot streak in the middle, and he's got to be better. Like, he has got to be better, and I'm just going to say it again. I don't care what his numbers look like overall at the end of the year. I don't care if he shoots 41% and makes 300 threes. If he stinks in 1 out of every 3 games, the Warriors are going to lose 1 out of every 3 games that of those games. So he's just got to be better. And I'm telling you, I mentioned this on the pregame last night. I'm watching Klay Thompson. I'm watching the attitude. Because I think as much as he said things are going to be different, I got to believe he's still ticked off about the lack of an extension and the fact that the reports are that they're so far away in terms of money and years and all of that. And he is the type of player that takes things, I think, very much to heart and very personally, and he carries that weight around with him. And all I could think is, man, is he as much as he tried to get out of his own head, is he maybe in his own head or going to be in his own head again this year for different reasons? So just something to keep an eye on.
JD, jumping back to the 49ers real quick, is it possible Brock Purdy was concussed for part of that game on Monday night?
Absolutely. I think it's possible, but there wasn't a play. I go back to, remember, they ran a couple of quarterback sneaks in a row. Remember, they ran one and didn't get the first down. Then they ran another one and he got the first down. I wonder if it was those two plays, possibly. But in the moment, if he doesn't exude symptoms and the independent person up top doesn't think that he got hit or needs to be checked out, then obviously it would pass. And he would be able to continue in the game. And then, from what Kyle Shanahan said today at the press conference, he didn't begin to have symptoms until they were on the flight back on Monday night. And so that's when he, self-reported and then obviously gets checked out and now is in the protocol.
JD, we'll get you out of here on this one. I mean, if it is, and it looks like it's going to be Darnold, any news on Trent Williams?
Yeah, Trent Williams is not going to practice today. Obviously, Deebo Samuel's already been ruled out for this week, and then the bye week, and then they'll see where he's at after that. And Dre Greenlaw, what was deemed to be a vet day, although Greenlaw was clearly not 100% on Monday night, really trying to grind through it, so he's not going to practice either. But yeah, no Trent Williams. But Trent Williams typically doesn't practice the first day of the week anyway. But they just kind of give him that first day off, and then he's usually out there the second and the third day. But, yeah, no Trent Williams. Although the 49ers, I thought, did a pretty good job for not having Trent Williams on Monday night. For all their problems, it really seemed like that wasn't one of them. Yeah. That wasn't one of them, which makes the loss, I think, in some ways more perplexing.
Good point.
All right, JD, appreciate it, man.
You got it, fellas.